the war ended?
I was actually 2.5 years old.
Okay, and what was it like for you at such a young age, growing up knowing that, well, not necessarily knowing, but having a feeling that all death is going on around you?
Well, when I was as small as that and as young as that, I don't have any memory of that. It is much later that I have memory, like going to stay with my foster mother, Sister Pop, when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And my memories are really through what I've been told by my mother, by other people, by reading a book that my uncle wrote about the war.
So your parents, what happened to them when you were...
My parents had to go in hiding because Jewish people were always in danger of being either picked up or being betrayed. So when my mother had me in 1943, she had me in hiding, and therefore I was actually, as a little baby, with a midwife where my mother was delivered from me, and my first bed was a coffin-like vacuum cleaner case. What happened then was that my mum and I were with this lady, Mrs. Sontjes, for about 10 days. And then my uncle and aunt came to collect me because my mother went into hiding with my father in a different town. And they collected me in my bed, which, as I already mentioned, was a sausage-shaped case. And we went to my uncle's house, where I was about 3 or 4 weeks. And then there was the Germans raided the house, and my aunt, who was only 15 at the time, was alone at home with me babysitting when the Germans raided. And they said they'd heard that Jews were living there. And my aunt told them that she had heard that actually the Jews were living next door and that they had fled, and that she had been orphaned because of the bombing in Rotterdam. They were total lies, but by telling the Germans that, she saved my life. The Germans still raided the house and went through it, but fortunately God smiled on me and I didn't cry, and therefore I'm here to tell the tale to you.
Wow. So have you ever been reunited with any of your family?
Yes, after the war my mum and dad came to collect me, but sadly my grandparents, my father's parents and his sister didn't survive the war. They were deported to Auschwitz and were gassed in the concentration camp. But my mum and dad came to collect me once they were freed, and happily I'm here to tell the tale.
There's a lot of portrayals about nowadays to try and account what actually happened in the concentration camps and the Holocaust. From what you know, are they accurate?
Some will be accurate, some will be romanticized, because often films will make things either better or worse because they have to sell the film, as indeed do the newspapers and sometimes the books. But there are people like Martin Gilbert, who's written a very authoritative book on the Holocaust, the Jewish tragedy, which I think are historically accurate. And really, that's what I am after. I'm not after glory or horrible stories that aren't true.
So you mentioned earlier that you had your hair dyed white. Why was this?
Yes, when I was with Sister Pop, who had this children's home where there were also children who had been ill to convalesce, but there were also Jewish children there. Now, the Germans perceived people with darker hair, if they were in a Jewish surroundings, as Jews. So Sister Pop had the bright idea to bleach our hair, so we had blonde hair and therefore were not perceived to be Jewish. And that's the reason why that was done.
What message are you trying to put across to your listeners when you give your talks to them?
I think that wars are so terrible and upsetting for everybody. The soldiers who have to fight, the families they leave behind, and when the soldiers get killed, the families still have to carry on living. So my message through talking about the horrors of the Holocaust is, please try and be kind to each other, show tolerance. Never mind what background, what skin color, what creed you have. By doing so, we may have peace in the world. And my message is really, do have understanding and respect for each other so we can have peace. And I use President Obama's words when he spoke in his inaugural speech, and he used the words, yes, we can. So I say to everybody, yes, you can stand up to hatred, and yes, you can be a good person, and we can have peace in this world.